How's it going, guys? It's Matt, back with another episode of Exploration Botanical. Today we're talking about nutrition and Sean O'Malley. Now, who is Sean O'Malley? Sean O'Malley is a fighter. He's UFC, MMA, I think, and I basically saw a podcast with Joe Rogan interviewing him, Sean O'Malley, with his roommate. And the title of the interview of the podcast by Joe Rogan was "Why MMA Fighter is No Longer Vegan." And it's just funny because what you'll find out, first off, he was never vegan. He was only vegetarian, and he has no knowledge of nutrition and how to feed himself, as I'll explain. So it's just really funny. So Joe Rogan's interviewing Sean O'Malley and his roommate, and so he starts talking about why he even went on this 6 month. It was 6 months of eating a plant-based diet, and so his roommate starts off by saying, when Sean moved in the house with me, he was, I saw him like a little brother, in the sense like, his room was always a mess, and he ate like, just crappy diet in general. Sean wasn't eating any specific diet at this point. He was just eating a very poor diet at this point in general, and you could see that in his physique, that he just had a very poor physique in general in his early fights. I'm not sure what his physique looks like now. I didn't see him shirtless in the interview or anything like that, but anyways, so already we're getting this idea of Sean O'Malley that's just, he doesn't sound put together, you know what I mean? And so then, he's like, yeah, so, I had this back inflammation because I ate so poorly, and Joe Rogan's like, whoa, well, were you ever, like, injured in your back? And he's like, no. He's like, I just, ate so poorly that it inflamed my back, and by eating things like spinach, he said specifically, and other plant foods, he said that it really helped his back pain, so much so that it inspired him to, like, go, plant-based, vegan, vegetarian. And then he says, so I went, vegetarian, vegan. He says vegan, but he's like, I could never go full vegan, because I just couldn't eat enough, and, which means he doesn't know how to cook meals that are calorically dense enough and provide enough nutrition to meet your nutrition needs. You don't know how to cook, dude. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you need cooking skills to feed yourself. And instead, you just want to gnaw down on fatty steak so you can, cheat, Like, it's a lot easier to get your calories in by eating calorically dense fatty food like steak and meat and plant-based or animal-based stuff, but it's not healthy. But anyways, so he's like, I couldn't get enough food in, so I kept eggs in, which eggs are not even a good protein source. They only have 6 grams of protein per egg. I think a single egg's around 70 calories. Kale literally has pretty much the same. It has better protein than that. 80 calories of kale. An egg is 70 calories. 80 calories of kale, which I'm about to show you. 80 calories of kale has 7.3 grams of protein, and not only that, 17% of DHA, omega-3 fatty acids. It's like 20 or 30% of your daily iron, 20% of your calcium. It's ridiculous how nutrient dense kale is compared to an egg. And he's sitting there complaining, saying, I had to keep eggs in my diet. So, and I'm going to show you on this website after I get done talking about this, how nutrient dense kale is. Not calorically dense, nutrient dense. There's a difference. It's not dense per gram calories, it's dense per gram in nutrients, okay? Anyway, so he says, I had to keep eggs in, and then he says, and then this fight came up, and, I just felt weak leading up to the fight. I felt weak during the fight. They showed a clip from the fight. He looked emaciated. Again, he didn't have a good nutrition base before he did this vegan, vegetarian sprint, So there's no reason to think that the diet would add nor take from your physique since you were so poor off to begin with. So they show this video, and he wins the fight. Never mind you, even though he's so weak, And the funny thing is that he says, yeah, so when I was training for the fight, just a couple weeks before the fight, I got a concussion. I think within actually like a week and a half before the fight, he was sparring with a partner and he got a concussion. And because of that, he was saying he was having trouble eating, so he couldn't keep on weight. He was puking, waking up at night puking because of the head injury. He still went in, won the fight off a plant-based diet, right? But he says he just felt weak. So this for him was the turning point, I guess. And he was with his roommate who was not, vegan or vegetarian or anything. He just, I guess in the beginning said, hey man, you should at least eat vegetables because damn, like, you're just eating crap, So that's when he he went from like not eating any vegetables to eating like spinach and like everything, and then he was like, oh man, I gotta go plant-based, of course. And then so anyways, skipping back to where we were, his roommate brings him to this quote-unquote doctor they are talking about, and he says that the sports doctor, he's like, how much would Sean benefit, he says to the doctor, if he just ate some like good quality grass-fed beef, twice a week. And the doctor was like, oh, Sean, you would benefit so much, Sean in the in the interview said he was told, you would do great. And so Sean's like, Sean says in the interview, when this guy who was a doctor, which there's so many doctors, more so now than meat doctors, being like, plant-based diet is the way to health, But anyways, so he says this doctor told him that eating meat would increase his health as a fighter and just in general, I guess. And so he thought he'd be stupid not to listen to this single doctor and not to incorporate meat and animal products in his diet again. So that's when he switched back. So, it's just like this guy never had a solid base on nutrition. He just kind of pinballed back around, diets. And so now he's not plant-based anymore. I mean, maybe compared to a standard American diet, he's plant-based in the sense that he at least eats a lot more vegetables, I hope now, for his own sake. But he's not truly plant-based at all, and our sense. And so moving on to the more nutritionally focused aspect now. For example, I just want to talk about some stuff I eat, and let's talk about the nutritional density. Let's see if I am deficient in what I am getting. So I'm not going to go through everything I eat. I'm just going to give examples of easy, cheap things that you can get that are vegan and are extremely nutritionally dense. So the first thing, this Progresso lentil soup. You can get it at Walmart for literally, sometimes they're buy one get one free. Usually they're $1.99. I eat the whole can usually per meal. That's what I suggest everyone do. Don't split this into 2 meals. Eat hearty, okay? Don't eat, get your calories in, okay? Like, eat vigorously, okay? 1 can of soup is not much to ask, okay? So anyways, this 1 can of soup, what's in here? They split it up into 2, but like I said, I'm going by the can. 1 can, okay, has 18 grams of protein. I'm gonna put this up here, okay, so you guys can pause and prove me wrong if not. So 9 grams per half can, 18 grams per can, okay? Not only that, 10 grams of fiber, very important nutrient, going down to micronutrients, okay? Iron, important for tissue health, blood cell health, okay? Carrying oxygen to feel vigorous, okay? This has 30% of your daily iron. Just in 1 can of lentil soup, 30% of your daily iron, okay? 4% of your daily calcium, 8% of your daily vitamin A, okay? So that's pretty much the main stuff that's in your 1 can of lentil soup. Heck yes, I like to joke around, bean soups and lentil soups, I like to call the original protein shakes. Especially with these clip tops, these ones with clip tops. Well Yes by Campbell. Make sure it's vegan ones, but like the Cajun, red bean, and like black bean, man, those are great. Those are vegan, and they have clip tops, I believe, just like this. And I just drink them, shake them up, drink them. 17 to 18 grams of protein a can, man. They're amazing. Like I said, 10 grams of fiber. If you want to feel agile, lean, and not bloated, you need fiber to move stuff through. There's so many good things about fiber. I'll make a video on fiber. But yeah, so this is another thing. So this I get for like $2 at $1.90 at Walmart. Okay, Uncle Ben's black bean and rice. Okay, you can just throw this in the microwave for 90 seconds, a minute to 90 seconds. And in this, again, a full pouch of this has 11 grams of protein. It has 8 grams of fiber, okay? It has 4% of your calcium. It has, again, 15% of your iron. It has 10% of your daily potassium. So this isn't as nutrient dense as lentils, of course, because lentils are like a superfood, but really it's pretty solid. It's got 11 grams of protein. It's got a nice chunk of iron in there. It's got a nice hit of potassium, got some calcium. So it's not bad, and it's only $2, you know what I mean? And it's got a nice bit of fiber in there. And if you eat 1 can of this in a day and 1 package of this in a day, you're literally this has 30% of your iron a can. This has 15% package. That is freaking 45% of your iron in a day by 2 things. I mean, that's ridiculous. You're already halfway there. So now I'm going to talk about kale and how nutrient dense kale is. And there's a site called Chronometer. If you guys haven't heard of the site, go on. It's called Chronometer. And you just put in your email, make a simple account, and basically it lets you log the food that you eat. But each time you put in a specific food, one by one, it will tell you the exact micronutrient breakdown of that food. So I'm going to show you the nutrient breakdown here of kale, because, it's just funny to me that, people are like, oh, I feel anemic, I feel weak, It's like, you guys just aren't eating the right food and you're not eating enough. Okay, so let me adjust the camera here a little bit for you guys, get a little bit closer. Okay, so, I hope you guys can see this clearly. So, look at this, guys. Okay, so, again, for 2, this is kale, okay? This is by the FDA serving size, okay? And I did 2 servings by the FDA, and this is, by the way, 2 servings of FDA kale would be 120 grams according to the FDA. Okay, so and the FDA usually shoots low because they know people don't eat much vegetables. But again, I did 2 servings because it's like if you're eating a plant-based diet, you're going to eat more than a normal person even would. So like 1 serving, okay, that's 1 serving. That's what you're supposed to have in a meal. I think a vegan, if you're having kale that day, you'd eat 2 servings within it that day. Maybe not every day you even eat kale, but like when you eat kale, you're probably going to eat at least 2 servings of it, right? If you eat a healthy diet. So this is kale, okay, and we did 2 servings, like I said. That's 83 calories, okay? Again, this is 120 grams of fresh kale. So this would be about 3 adult leaves, fully adult leaves of kale. I eat the stems of kale. I love stems of kale. They're crunchy, they're salty, sweet. Anyways, so 83 calories, 30% of your iron. So if you ate, and this a lot of times this is a meal for me. I eat one of those cans of lentil soup. I have 2 pieces of vegan whole grain toast, 5 grams a slice of by the toast. Okay, then I'll eat like 4 whole adult kale leaves. So that right there, that can of lentils is 30% of your iron. That's 60% of your iron plus 15% from those beans I talked about. You're already at 75% of your daily iron Easy, guys. I mean, I didn't even include the iron from that's probably in the bread. I mean, like, it's so easy to hit your micronutrient goals. Okay, calcium. Look at this. Two servings of kale gives you 26% of your daily calcium, 255 milligrams. Of your vitamin A, you're getting 566% of your daily needed vitamin A from 2 servings of kale. I mean, ridiculous. 227% vitamin C, 60% of your daily folate. Folate is extremely important for tissue health, nerve health, especially if you want to be a fast fighter and whatnot. Here's another important point. So in the video they say, oh, you know, it's just really hard to get your B vitamins from a plant-based diet. Really, your B vitamins from... So just in kale, just talking about kale, guys, of your B vitamins, kale has 16% of your daily vitamin B1. It has 17% of your B2. It has 11% of your B3. It has 3% of your B5. It has 35% of your B6. Okay? It has, again, it has no B12 because B12 only comes from bacteria. Meat does not create, cows do not make B12. They get it from the anaerobic bacteria that live in the grass and on the grass. And they have 4-chamber stomachs that allow that bacteria to thrive more. And they naturally produce more than we do. Most humans produce micro amounts of B12 naturally. But if you want to steal another animal's life and just suck their B12 out of them, you can do that. But you can, we naturally used to get B12 from the natural springs, the natural, anywhere that had natural water that was untreated when we were evolving had B12 in it because of the bacteria. The foods we ate and plants we ate had B12, and our guts had much higher rates of B12 because our guts had no processed foods. It was all the food we ate were covered in bacteria. There were downsides to that, but we got our B12. That's my point. That's how we got B12 back in the day. It wasn't perfect, just like it is now. Nowadays, if you want to get B12 as a vegan, long term, you should take some supplements or whatnot to make sure you're not low. But back in the day, you got it through the environment and bacteria, just like how cows get it. Anyway, so that's B12. Going down to our vitamins, again, vitamin A, 566% vitamin A, 220% of your vitamin C, 0% vitamin D. You get vitamin D, guys, from going out in the sun. If you're light-skinned, it takes in 30 minutes in the sun will give you 10 times the amount at 12 o'clock at high sun in the afternoon. 30 minutes, if you're light-skinned with your shirt off, will give you 10 times your daily amount of vitamin D that you need. But if you're dark-skinned, you're going to need 30 minutes just for a single dose. But that's still not bad. You only need 30 minutes with your shirt off. You got your full vitamin D dose for the day. You're good to go. Now, let's see here. Vitamin K, 998% of your vitamin K. I mean, are you serious? Like, you can't tell me that this is a nutrient deficient diet. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, this is just kale, guys. This is literally just an example of one plant food. This is to show you how nutrient dense kale or plant foods in general are compared to like other foods or, you know, animal based foods. You know, we move down to microminerals. Okay, so calcium, again, 26% of our calcium. You want strong bones if you're a fighter. You don't want to break your face or break your knuckles if you're a fighter. You want lots of calcium. Literally 2 servings of kale, 26% of your calcium. That's literally more than natural. Milk is naturally fortified with vitamin D and calcium. Milk does not have vitamin D naturally in the way it occurs, that when you buy it in a jug. They literally add that in chemically, so you get your vitamin D, you get your calcium. There's definitely calcium, a good bit of calcium in milk naturally, but they fortify it even more so that nationally we wouldn't have epidemics of bone deficiencies and things like that. So that was done way back in the 50s, that started. But anyway, so Naturally, calcium's loaded in kale and leafy greens. Okay? Iron, 30%. Magnesium, 20%. Manganese, 49%. Phosphorus, 22%. Potassium, 18%. It's very hard to get enough. Very, very few Americans get their daily recommended potassium. If you're not getting your recommended potassium in a day, you're at much higher risk for heart disease, much higher risk for heart attack, much higher risk for anemia, and just feeling weak. You need your potassium. So very high source of potassium. 2 servings. That's like, you're gonna get, that's literally like a micro bit of what you eat. 80 calories out of your day, guys, is giving you all this nutrients. 80 calories out of your day. Like, there's nothing else that's gonna match this. Okay? You got 9% of your zinc. Extremely important for testosterone production and blood production and vigor. Very important, zinc. Selenium, 3%. If we go down to protein, 7.3 grams of protein per 80 calories. Like I said, this beats an egg. An egg, guys, an egg has 70 calories, okay? 6 grams of protein. This has 80 calories, 7.3 grams of protein. It is a full protein source. Complete protein. It has every amino acid you need during your day. And this is only 2 servings of kale. Like, you will dominate your amino acid needs if you eat a diverse, plant-based, nutritious diet. Like, you will dominate it. Okay? Go to nutritionfacts.org on YouTube. He has an amazing channel. He did a YouTube video on spinach, which talks about how basically if you eat spinach in moderate amount, not ridiculous amounts, but if you eat spinach daily, it will dramatically reduce your rates of delayed onset muscle soreness, and you will have much faster recovery periods athletically because you're eating spinach or just green leafy greens in general. Like, it is amazing how much they help you recover. And not only that, but kale, for example, is a full, complete protein source. So not only does it have alkaloids and phytonutrients that make you recover much faster, but it is giving you complete protein source so you can rebuild fully. And not only that, but kale has a very high amount of free amino acids. You see all these bodybuilders taking BCAA, branched chain amino acids these days for, easy bioavailable amino acids. Kale has tons of bioavailable amino acids, and which are not. Okay, so when you see something that says 10 grams of protein, what that means is it has 10 globular grams of protein. That means 10 structural complete grams of protein for that source. Like, in that microstructure, it has 10 globular grams of protein. But within there's all sorts of amino acids that plant or that organism hadn't yet or didn't assemble into full proteins, right? So there's complete proteins within the structure, and then there's all these building blocks that it either didn't use or it was going to use, right? So those are the free amino acids. So kale has abundance of free amino acids, and as you can see, it's a complete source of amino acids, okay? So there's an overview of 80 calories worth of kale. Extremely, extremely nutrient dense, okay? So, I hope this video has been informative. I went over a lot. I hope it wasn't too long. Show this to anyone who says plant-based diets aren't nutritious. I will debate anybody. This is ridiculous. Sean O'Malley should have stayed vegan. He should have gotten cookbooks. Get yourselves cookbooks. Cookbooks will help you. Don't overcook with oil. Don't use the oil that they tell you to use. Cook with just enough oil to get healthy fats. Use walnut oil, olive oil, avocado oil. But just use enough to lubricate the pan and keep things hydrated. Do not overdo it with the oil. That'll make you fat. Just stick to lots of vegetables and beans, legumes, nuts and seeds, tubers, fungus. There's thousands of types of mushrooms, guys. Whole world to be discovered in the mushroom kingdom. So many. We didn't even go. I'll make a whole video on mushrooms. They're so nutritious, but like, again, you can't be beaten on a plant-based diet. You will succeed. You will be the best version of yourself that you can be. And I just thought this podcast that I saw with Sean O'Malley would be a good video to talk about this stuff with or about. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions, let me know. I hope it was helpful. I'll see you later. Enjoy yourself. Bye.